ever been ghosted? One day it's great, everything's just so good, so beautiful. But then there is silence, no more replies, no more calls, and then you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Ghosting can be a tad bit frustrating, especially when people leave you hanging. No explanation, no goodbyes, along with an ear-deafening silence. Hi everyone, I'm Ekta, and today in this video I'm going to break down and talk about what exactly is ghosting, why do people ghost, and how it impacts you, and what to do when someone starts ghosting you. And that too with actionable steps and no pseudo advice that people here on the internet who call themselves coaches, they give you, but all of it with science-backed and psychology-backed hacks. Let's get started. Well, honestly speaking, I've never been ghosted because I know that all the great things that I bring to the table. But wait, my partner actually ghosts me for hours because he wants to focus on work and he thinks that I am quite a tempting proposition and a distraction. I'm just kidding. Well, ghosting is a colloquial dating term when someone just leaves you abruptly and leaves you hanging without an explanation, without any reason, and just cuts off all the communication abruptly, without any hints or a prior notice. It just leaves you in a dark space which is so painful because somewhere it just taps into the deep-rooted fears of abandonment and rejection. Now it's easy to take it personally. It's easy to kind of sit and sulk and ask yourself what exactly did you do wrong and where did you go wrong and how can you fix this. But the good news is that it is not to do with you, but it's to do with the other person. You know, as per attachment theory by John Bowlby, people with an avoidant attachment style tend to avoid emotional intimacy and distance themselves from any situation that makes them vulnerable. For them, ghosting is an easy escape from vulnerability where they fear getting close to someone because they feel that the more close they'll get to someone, the more hurt they will be. And a lot of it has to do with their own childhood. Maybe as a child, they were looking for some kind of comfort or attention or love or that closeness and connectedness from their primary caregivers, their family, their peers, their school teachers. But because of the lack of emotional comfort from the expected people in and around them, they decided to just shut themselves up. They decided that it's better to be by myself, to not kind of expect that comfort and connectedness from someone else. And hence they decide to keep all these emotional conundrums at bay. For them, it's easier to not face the difficult conversation or just keep away from any emotional complexities. Now, for all of you who want to know about these attachment style, because for me, I really love this whole theory of attachment style because it just helps us understand how the other person is, how do they operate, what their style is like. It's something that I'm truly fascinated about. But if you really want to know about the attachment styles, comment attachment in the comment section below. Like, pause this video, comment right now, and I will be creating a video on the attachment style so that you can understand your partner and people in and around you. So now let's understand, why do people ghost at first place? So psychologically, there are few reasons. The first and foremost is the fear of confrontation. A lot of people actually find it extremely difficult to convey their feelings, their message or their emotions to the other person. And there could be multiple reasons. One, it could be due to anxiety, due to their fear of abandonment. It could be also because of they feeling overwhelmed, or in general having that fear of conflict. So they rather choose to avoid as opposed to conveying their emotions and creating this whole turbulence. So remember, it's not about you, it's about their discomfort with emotional openness. But ghosting doesn't only come with the attachment style, it also comes with emotional immaturity. You know, as per Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, and he talks about that people with low emotional intelligence tend to struggle with managing their emotions and hence they decide to ghost as a result. But here's another catch. Ghosting can be a passive withdrawal, especially when people are no longer interested and they don't know how to communicate their feelings or their emotions to you. So they choose to ghost rather than communicating about their disinterest or shifting priorities. But you know, in some or the other way, it is also attached to narcissism and control. For some, ghosting is a way to hold power, to not be vulnerable to the other person. But in many cases, ghosting can also be a form of manipulation and power play. So there could be multiple reasons why people ghost. It could be because that people want to use this as a form of manipulation and want to keep themselves above the other person. It could also be because they don't want to show their vulnerability. It could be also because of emotional immaturity, or someone who started to become disinterested in you, or the shift in the priority, or as simple as that they don't want to feel rejected and hence they just reject you. That was about understanding why people ghost, but what about you? You are the one who's left wondering and waiting. Ghosting can actually leave an emotional bruise on a person. And it's not just a feeling, but it's a psychological reality. Because ghosting can actually trigger feelings of abandonment, anxiety, and depression. And this is tied to rejection sensitivity. In fact, research shows that social rejection activates the same brain regions that processes physical pain. And that is anterior cingulate cortex is the part of the brain. And which is why ghosting can actually hurt you just as much as a physical injury. And honestly speaking, when you're ghosted, your mind just keeps revisiting that event. It just gets into all this mental rumination, leading to obsessive thinking and self-doubt. As per scarcity principle, it also states that people tend to value what is scarce and hard to attain. When someone ghosts you, it creates a sense of unavailability, which then paradoxically makes you want to chase that for validation, for attention. And in fact, you might feel all the more drawn toward that person despite knowing that it's unhealthy. Now, why do we do that? Simple, because of all the mixed signals that we get. We get into this state of cognitive dissonance. This whole confusion of receiving these mixed signals or the lack of closure can create a lot of mental discomfort where your brain just tries to reconcile with all the positive experiences that it had with this sudden absence. It's that tension between I thought things were going right and this sudden disappearance or this sudden silence. It's this tension that kind of keeps you into that loop, and all you're trying to do is make sense of the situation. Now you must be like, Ekta, we know what we are experiencing, I know what we are going through, but tell me, what do we do about it? Of course, I'll tell you what to do about it, how to deal with ghosting, but before that, I'll tell you what not to do when someone's ghosting you. And that is, do not chase them. It's very tempting to chase someone, especially when they've disappeared, in a bit to kind of get the answer, to get that validation, to get that attention, to get that kind of closure. We often tend to reach out repeatedly in order to demand answers. But to be very honest, this just leads to pain. Because of this rejection sensitivity, we tend to seek validation from this other person. We tend to seek some kind of closure with, okay, this is what the problem was. We want to get the understanding of why someone did what they did. But the deeper you get into this whole closure thing, the deeper the wound becomes. According to self-determination theory, we humans have 3 core needs: autonomy, competence, and connectedness, also known as relatedness. And when you're ghosted, this whole idea of connectedness goes for a toss. It just shakes your whole need for relatedness. It just makes you want to feel connected, and which is why you often chase the other person. But here's where you can take back your control. Because you cannot connect with the person, you can take charge of your autonomy and your competence. By reminding yourself that your self-worth is not determined by how someone is looking at you, by how connected you are with someone, and how someone's lack of communication has nothing to do with your self-belief and your self-esteem. Because you are in control of how you see yourself. So the best way is by reflecting on the situation and changing your mental narrative that's going from self-reflection versus self-blame. That reflect upon this whole situation and remind yourself that maybe this other person had its own limitation, and because they weren't interested to kind of go ahead and have this new journey, and maybe their priorities might have changed, and which is why they might be ghosting you. But it has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with what you bring to the table. So instead of doubting yourself or shaming yourself or putting yourself into this whole guilt trip that, oh, did I do something wrong? No, my friend, it simply means that maybe what you brought to the table was not something that they wanted. In psychology, there's something called dialectical behavior therapy, also known as DBT, says that radically accepting something just reduces your emotional suffering. It makes you aware of what's under your control rather than focusing on something which is beyond your control. And more often than not, this loop that we often get stuck in is focusing on why someone did what they did. But all you can do is, fine, maybe someone had their own possible reasons to kind of create this distance, or maybe just walk away or disappear. But what I can do about this is focus on my life and myself. So since ghosting doesn't leave you with any kind of closure, and because we humans always want to get this full stop or just get this closure or want to end this chapter, the best way to deal with it is by journaling or speaking with a therapist. If you think that there's something that's been eating you up, gnawing at you, you can't deal with this whole situation of disappearing, you can simply seek help and journal about what exactly are you experiencing and what can you do about it. Because the only thing you can focus upon is the internal locus of control. Because when you focus on yourself, you'll understand self-worth is not dependent on someone else, and how ghosting can actually serve as a reminder for you to set boundaries about what exactly is allowed, what isn't allowed. So going forward, when you meet someone, you understand what exactly their agenda is, what exactly are they looking for, and also trying to read the person before emotionally getting invested in that relationship. Despite you not being able to reach out to this person, and after constant rejection, you just want to work on yourself and stand for yourself and believe in who you are as a person and what you bring to the table, as opposed to pleasing the other person to stay connected. And one of the best way to do that is by connecting with your friends, your family, creating a good social capital, having a set of people and also set of goals that you can focus on. Now, I understand that ghosting can be really painful, there's no doubt about it, but understanding the psychology behind why someone ghosts can help you take charge and control of how you look at the situation and how you look at yourself. And more importantly, how you respond to the situation. So in short, how do you protect yourself from being ghosted in the future is by setting your boundaries and communicating during the early stage of the relationship. So remember, being ghosted isn't a reflection of your value, because you deserve people who respect you and respect you enough to communicate about their feelings and their emotions and their goals and not disappear. Now, if you really like this video and found this video useful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. And as I always say, drop a comment about any topic that you want me to create a video on, and I will surely get back to it. Till then, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.